Hot takes. They're a bit like awkward middle school stories. Everybody has one, and I don't really want to hear about yours. However, like awkward middle school stories, hot takes seem especially pervasive in the anime space. It seems as though every single person believes they have an opinion that runs contrary to popular belief. And really in no fandom do I believe that epidemic is more pervasive than the Naruto fandom. Now this could be because Naruto is one of the biggest manga and anime in existence, but it could also be because Naruto is far from a perfect story. And thus a lot of people tend to have opinions about how they believe Naruto could have been better, which they identify as a hot take. However, unfortunately, because the idea of having a hot take about Naruto is so pervasive in the Naruto fandom, I find that a lot of the most popular hot takes in the Naruto fandom are just wrong. And listen, you can make an argument that a hot take should make me feel like that take is wrong, but there's a difference between a take that's spicy and a take that makes no sense at all. But that's the thing about hot takes in the Naruto fandom. It's not like I go, you're right, but I disagree with you. It's that I go, you're wrong. And that's the end of it. But why am I bringing all of this up? Well, today, while scrolling through the interwebs using my keyword searches of Naruto and Boruto, I stumbled upon a Ranker article that ranked the top 5 most popular hot takes in the Naruto fandom. And as I scrolled through these 25 hot takes, I realized I'm not sure a lot of people have actually read this story, which is why today I want to talk about these 25 hot takes and tell you which ones I disagree with and why. Because today we're talking the top 25 hot takes in Naruto debunked. But before we get to debunking anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. But before we get into all that, today we gotta talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, Raycon. Listen, you might have heard me talk about Raycon's everyday earbuds before and thought to yourself, there's genuinely no way I can get the same audio quality as all other competitors for half the price. I'm here to tell you once again, yes, you can. See, Raycon has sold over 3 million pairs of their previous generation of everyday earbuds, but now they've made improvements. See, because if ever there was a time to check out Raycon, now is that time, as they've released the upgraded version of their best-selling everyday earbuds. As these earbuds have an even more ergonomic design than the previous generation, have multi-point connectivity that allows you to connect to multiple devices simultaneously, and active noise cancellation, so anything you don't want to hear, you don't have to. Not to mention the everyday earbuds are available in multiple colorways. However, I'm a bit of a fundamentalist. I like them in black. However, there's a lot of other things I love about everyday earbuds, like the fact that they have a 32-hour battery life, a quick charge function that yields 90 minutes of listening time in 10 minutes of charging, and they're completely weatherproof and sweat resistant, which means when I'm in the gym sweating up a storm, I don't have to worry about these things breaking on me. But speaking of the gym, I've genuinely never found earbuds that work as well as these in the gym. I sweat up a storm. I'm shaking around. I'm trying to listen to my audiobooks or Otaku's Anonymous on Spotify, but when my ears get sweaty, my earbuds always fall out. That's not the case with Raycons. Go ahead and go to buyraycon.com/nchammer23 to save big for the holidays and get up to 25% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get 25% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/nchammer23. So what are you guys waiting for? If you're getting these as a holiday gift, now is the time to order. The cutoff date to make sure you get these in time for Christmas is December 15th. If you thought I was affordable before, wait until you use Nick's link. So today we're going to be on Ranker.com, looking at the 25 most popular hot takes in the Naruto fandom. For those of you who don't know how Ranker works, essentially there is a prompt, and today it's 25 fans share their hot takes about the Naruto series, and then those answers are voted on, either up or down, and whatever answer gets the most up votes gets to stay at the top, while whatever gets the most down votes goes down to the bottom. Now, I do agree with some of these hot takes, so we're not necessarily going to be debunking all 25 of them. However, we are going to be debunking the 25th one, because coming in at number 25, we have a hot take that I feel kind of so-so on, but not because this hot take makes me go, you're right, but I disagree with you, but rather because it's kind of vaguely worded. See, coming up at number 25, we have the hate for danzo is unwarranted. And depending on the way that you go with this hot take, I could potentially agree with this hot take. However, the explanation for this hot take is, I love Danzo. He's an interesting character and he truly loved Konoha. Honestly, I don't know why everyone hates him. And that's kind of wild. Because not understanding why people hate Danzo has to either come from a place of willful or accidental ignorance. Danzo is undoubtedly one of the most evil people in the entirety of the Naruto series. He was responsible for the formation of the Akatsuki because he identified that the earliest iteration of the Akatsuki, which was genuinely trying to spread world peace across the globe, now held enough power that if they collaborated with Hanzo the Salamander, that the Hidden Rain could become a potential threat to all other villages. And while yes, as a politician, maybe you don't want other nations becoming wildly powerful, but if half of the equation that's going to make this country wildly powerful is a group of teenagers that are trying to spread world peace, it may not be the end of the world if they get a little bit of funding from the nation that they're in. And yet because Danzo realized that Hanzo the Salamander, without the addition of the Akatsuki, was able to repel 3 separate shinobi nations during the Second Great Shinobi World War, figured that if the Akatsuki were to pair up with Hanzo, that the Hidden Rain would actually be able to stand a legitimate threat against the Leaf, and therefore Danzo decided to pit Hanzo against the Akatsuki, which led to the death of Yahiko and the foundation of the Akatsuki that wanted to achieve the Eye of the Moon plan. Tie that into the fact that Danzo was the reason that everybody in Konoha knew that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of Kurama, and therefore was the reason that the MZ of this story had an awful childhood. He was also the key orchestrator behind the Uchiha massacre, kidnapped children all throughout Konoha, put them into the root, turned them into assassins by forcing them to kill hundreds, if not thousands of people, plucked out the eyes of dead Uchihas, shoved them into his arm that he got from Orochimaru, mind you, and did all of this while actively plotting to kill his childhood best friend, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Hokage. And while yes, you can make the argument that Danzo did all of these things with the betterment of Konoha in mind, that's kind of the point of Danzo. Danzo's supposed to represent what a politician's true nature looks like. Danzo is repeatedly doing horrific action after horrific action with the idea in his mind that he's acting for the betterment of his nation. In the same way that politicians of powerful countries will destroy other countries for the betterment of their own. And in this sense, Danzo is an incredibly compelling villain. In fact, he's my favorite villain in the entirety of Naruto, and that's why I'm so on this take. See, not understanding why people hate on Danzo is insane. He's evil. However, he is an incredibly compelling character and a very well written one. So if you're hitting on Danzo's existence in the story, that's stupid. He's a fantastic addition to the story of Naruto. However, if you're hitting on Danzo as a character, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You should. He's a bad guy. Let's move on to a hot take that I don't feel so about. Number 24 on this list. Minato was a bad father. This isn't a hot take. It's just wrong. See, the argument that people make for Minato being a bad father is that Minato sealed Kurama inside of his infant child. And thus people will make the argument that Minato is a bad father because he sealed a demon inside of his child. What kind of father would do that? And what's wild to me is that to make that argument, you have to fundamentally misunderstand Naruto's birth, which is crazy because we're shown it like 12 times. See, the reason that Minato seals Kurama inside of Naruto isn't just because Naruto is the closest body he could seal Kurama into. Hypothetically, Minato could have sealed Kurama back into Kushina. It probably wouldn't have been his best choice. She was kind of on death's door, and while maybe getting Kurama back inside of her would have healed her, Kurama and Kushina do not have the collaborative relationship that Naruto and Kurama had. You can't assume that Kushina had access to Kurama's chakra really in any capacity, or that she had the healing factor conveyed by being a Jinchuriki of Kurama. Because the only time that we ever saw Kushina use Kurama's chakra in any way whatsoever is in the Minato one-shot. And that wasn't even her using the chakra, that was Kurama taking over her body because Kushina didn't have a tight enough grip on Kurama. And therefore to assume that Kushina would have been able to use Kurama's chakra to heal from the stress of having Kurama ripped out of her is not a thing that we can say. And therefore, if hypothetically Minato was to shove the other half of Kurama back into Kushina, she could have just died like 30 minutes later. But that's still not even the reason that Minato put Kurama inside of Naruto. The reason that Minato put Kurama inside of Naruto is because Jiraiya told Minato about the Child of Prophecy. And Minato genuinely believed that Naruto was going to be the Child of Prophecy. It's why he named him Naruto. Naruto is the name of the hero of the story of Jiraiya's book. Minato understood that Naruto would most likely need the power of Kurama to achieve the Child of Prophecy status, which is why he also used the 8 trigram seal, because it would slowly but surely leak Kurama's chakra into Naruto's chakra circulatory system, which would ensure that Naruto would learn how to use that chakra with time. So no, Minato wasn't a horrible father. He made the only decision that he could in the moment based off the information that he had. And objectively, he made the right choice. Without Kurama, Naruto would have died dozens of times over. Minato, therefore, by extension, saved his life. So no, Minato is not a bad father. This is an asinine take. Next up at the number 23 spot, we have the Akatsuki were underwhelming. And Actually, this is a pretty good hot take. I'm not going to debunk it. The Akatsuki as an organization were really cool, and they did have a lot of really cool individual characters. However, the motivations of every member of the Akatsuki to join the Akatsuki is kind of hazy, and while the backstories of all of the members of the Akatsuki are compelling and interesting, which makes them as characters compelling and interesting, every single one of the members of the Akatsuki die working towards a goal they didn't truly understand. So yeah, as an organization, they were kind of underwhelming. And once again, at the number 22 spot, I have a hot take I can't necessarily disagree with. And that's because coming up at number 22, we have Naruto isn't that great of a character. And while I don't necessarily agree with this hot take, I can identify that it is a hot take, not just inaccurate. See, while Naruto is one of the more compelling, interesting, and beloved characters in modern day fiction writing, unfortunately, as Shippuden proceeds, Naruto does kind of lose the plot as a character. Naruto is supposed to be a story about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, working hard regardless of the situation you're born into. However, as Naruto as an IP proceeded, we realized that Naruto didn't really embody the truth of his own story, as he was once a scrappy orphan born with the worst hand imaginable, that is, being born with a demon fox inside of you. As time progressed, it was revealed time and time again that Naruto was the child of prophecy, and for good reason. He was born from two of the most powerful people to ever live in Konoha. He was given the most powerful tailed beast in existence by a landslide, and the end of the story revealed that he was the reincarnation of the child of God. So yeah, well, Naruto got a bunch of cool power-ups because of these relative asspulls. Unfortunately, every single time Naruto got a new power-up, it took him further and further away from the core messaging of Naruto. And therefore, ironically, by the end of the story, characters like Sakura and Rock Lee embody the true message of the story better than the MC. But don't worry, we're not going to agree with every hot take, because coming up at number 21, we have the supporting characters carried the series. And this hot take is substantiated with the main trio are pretty bad, TBH. The side cast carried the series, and when we were casted aside in Shippuden, it really showed how limited and awful the story was. Also, I'd much prefer Kiba as an MC to Naruto too. Now, considering the fact that the image for this hot take is Shino, Kiba, and Hinata, I could not disagree with this hot take more. See, because one of the biggest complaints about Naruto as an IP is that the Konoha 12 were introduced and all of the characters had cool and compelling backstories, and then unfortunately when Shippuden came along, a lot of those characters were dropped. Now obviously a lot of these characters couldn't get the main character treatment because otherwise the manga would have been thousands of chapters long. The main trio of Naruto are anything but bad. See, say what you will about the motivations of Naruto and Sakura to keep chasing after Sasuke, the story of trying to get him back is still incredibly compelling. Tie into the fact that Naruto is grappling with his childhood, even into the continuation of Shippuden, and that Sakura is in a constant struggle of being paired with two of the most powerful people in existence and is still trying to find relevance, and those two alone are motivating stories enough to compel you through Shippuden. However, when you tie into the fact that Sasuke is now an antagonist and is actively trying to not be taken over by Orochimaru, even though he's reliant on Orochimaru's curse mark, those three are incredibly compelling storylines. Storylines massively more compelling than we got from any other members of the Konoha 12, with the possible exception being Shikamaru and Team 10, who get their time to shine in Shippuden. See, because while I was a person who believed that the Konoha 12 deserved more time in the sun in Shippuden years ago, what I've realized is that Kishimoto actually did a pretty good job of phasing out the less interesting characters, or the members of the Konoha 12 already lived out their stories in part 1 of Shippuden. Genuine question here. After the completion of part 1, what more do we need to know about Neji? By the end of part 1, he's forgiven Hinata for being born into the main branch family, he's learned that you can become more than the circumstance of your birth, and he's trained to become the most powerful Hyuga in existence. That's kind of a full character arc development, and you can make the same argument for basically every other member of the Konoha 12 not named Shikamaru. So no, the supporting characters did not carry the story. If you wanted to say maybe the antagonists carried the story, that I could buy into. But Shino, Ino, Kiba, Hinata, Neji, Choji, and the rest of them got about as much screen time as I genuinely believe they deserved, with the possible exception being Shino, but even he got his moment in the battle against Tarune. Unfortunately, we are kind of back to hot takes that I kind of agree with at the number 20 spot here, because at number 20, we have Itachi is overrated. And listen, I have an Itachi tattoo. I love Itachi a lot. But yes, Itachi in the Naruto fandom is overrated. Fundamentally, the best way to appreciate Itachi's character is to understand that he didn't always make the right decision. Was the massacring of his entire clan the right decision? Probably not. However, he was a 13-year-old thrust into one of the most impossibly difficult situations imaginable, having to choose between your nation and your clan. So while yes, he's a compelling character and one of my favorites, he did make a lot of wrong decisions along the way, and therefore the way that people talk about him, like shinobi Jesus is a bit of a stretch. I mean, my god, he was supposed to be a mole in the Akatsuki, and when do we ever see him convey information to Konoha about the movings of the Akatsuki outside of maybe his conversation with Jiraiya? Once again, we're going to be agreeing with another hot take here, and that's that Jiraiya's lechery actively took away from Naruto as a story. This is backed up with the text, Jiraiya sucks and made watching the show actively more difficult whenever he showed up. It was very alienating as a young girl when one of the main characters, most celebrated by both the narrative and fan base, is an old lech who spies on women while they're bathing and asks underage boys to use a jutsu for sex appeal. And yeah, no, I agree with this take wholeheartedly. Well, unfortunately, Jiraiya's sexual nature was a sign of the times that doesn't necessarily excuse why he was written in the way that he was. Jiraiya was an incredible and compelling character in so many facets, but unfortunately, a large part of his character boiling down to him non-consentingly spying on women while they're naked does take away from his mainstream appeal. Unfortunately, the perverted old man trope was absolutely massive in the time that Naruto was created. And that's unfortunately because Akira Toriyama and Master Roshi influenced a lot of young up-and-coming shonen manga authors in the early 2000s. But yes, this hot take is objectively correct. And so is the number 18 hot take, which is Hiruzen Sarutobi wasn't a bad Hokage. And like, yeah, obviously, Hiruzen, the longest tenured Hokage in the history of the village, wasn't a bad Hokage. Now, technically, what they go on to talk about is the fact that Hiruzen was not a bad Hokage. He just had so many plot holes put against him by Kishimoto and Danzo was shoehorned into the series, which is kind of just a different way of saying what a lot of people say on the internet, which is a different way to say something that a lot of the people in the Naruto fandom say, which is that part 1 Hiruzen wasn't a bad guy. It was just that part 2 Hiruzen was made a bad guy by Kishimoto. And yeah, that is kind of exactly what happened. Part 1 Hiruzen was a hero, while part 2 Hiruzen was a human who made a lot of mistakes. However, if we're talking strictly as a Hokage, Hiruzen wasn't just not a bad Hokage, he might have been the best ever. Well, yes, an argument could be made that Hiruzen was a bad person because he promised Minato that he would keep an eye on Naruto and then just did anything but that. As a Hokage, Hiruzen guided Konoha through the first, second, and third Great Shinobi World Wars. He defended Konoha from Kurama on the night of Naruto's birth, actively dismantled the root and dethroned Danzo after realizing what Danzo did with the Uchiha Massacre. And while you can make the argument that Hiruzen allowed for Danzo to run around as his shadow Hokage for far too long, unfortunately that's stripping a lot of autonomy from Danzo. Danzo is one of the most intelligent and sneaky people in the entirety of Naruto. Hiruzen may have just not been privy to a lot of Danzo's movements, and therefore, yeah, as a Hokage, Hiruzen did a pretty good job. And once again, at number 17, as crazy as it sounds, and this is literally going to be the most insane sentence I feel as though I've ever said out loud, but at number 17, I gotta disagree with this hot take, because at number 17, we have Sasuke sucks. Listen, I know there's a lot of people watching this video right now going like, Nick, what do you mean? You're literally the number 1 Sasuke hater. And you're right, I am. I dislike Sasuke as a character, but Sasuke doesn't suck. Sasuke is an incredibly compelling and interesting character. He's got an interesting backstory and is a large part of what makes Naruto a fun and immersive story. While I can disagree with Sasuke's motivations, his actions, and even his role in the story, I think the fact that Sasuke manages to motivate me to dislike him as deeply as I do proves that he is a worthwhile character in the story. But then again, Sasuke sucks as a hot take is so ambiguously worded that I don't know if they're trying to say that Sasuke as a character sucks or if Sasuke's decisions suck. Regardless, I'm going to be saying that this hot take is saying that Sasuke as a concept sucks. But in actuality, Sasuke as a concept does not suck. He as a person sucks, but he as a concept is compelling. The 16th hot take is barely even worth talking about because coming up at number 16, we have Tenten is worse. And like, here's the thing. This take is objectively wrong. Tenten isn't a bad character. Well, yes, Tenten is weak and barely important to the story. Tenten is not a bad character. In fact, Tenten actually sees a fair amount of growth within the confines of Naruto as a story. Tenten in the Chunin exams shows us what the base level of Genin power looks like. And even then, if you put Tenten in a battle against either Sakura or Ino in the Chunin exams, she probably would have won. She just pulled the shit card of battling against Tamari, who at that time was probably Jonin level strong. Tenten then proceeded to work on herself for the entirety of Naruto and gained the ability to master quite literally any weapon, which led to her actually contributing in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, where she was able to take out one of Kakuzu's masks. masks, using, mind you, a treasured tool of the Sage of Six Paths. So no, Tenten is not a bad character. She may be useless or weak, but she's not a bad character. On number 15 hot take, I do agree with, though. That's because at number 15, we have the Kage should be eliminated. And this hot take goes on to elaborate about how Sasuke was right all along, about how the Kage should be eliminated. The system as a whole is just evil. Sending kids to war, justifying massacring an entire clan and letting a teenager be the scapegoat for it, no protection system for orphans. Everything was effed up and Naruto was a victim of grand indoctrination. And yeah, I agree and disagree with this take, which is what any good hot take should do. See, was Sasuke truly right about eliminating all the Kage? And not really, but not because the sentiment of destroying the system that was forcing kids to go to war against each other was wrong, but more because the corporation that Sasuke was with were way more evil than the Kage, and Sasuke had no concrete plan to replace the Kage after disposing of them. Also, let's break down the points that make the Kage system so terrible. Yes, objectively, Konoha was founded on the idea of no longer sending kids to war, and within just a couple of generations of Konoha being founded, we were already sending kids back to war, which is how, ironically, Hashirama's grandchild ended up dying in the Second Great Shinobi World War. However, these other points don't necessarily fall on the shoulders of the Kages, like justifying the massacre of an entire clan and letting a teenager be the scapegoat for it. What else was Hiruzen supposed to do in that situation? Hiruzen wasn't privy to the fact that Danzo was manipulating Itachi into the Uchiha massacre, and objectively, Itachi was the person who killed the Uchiha. Yes, obviously, Hiruzen could have thrust the blame onto Danzo, but that probably would have thrown Konoha into an even bigger mess, most likely sparking a civil war between Danzo and Konoha. On top of that, no protection system for orphans isn't accurate. There is literally an orphanage inside of Konoha. Naruto just didn't go to it. So yes, do I believe the Kage lost the grasp of why Konoha was founded in the first place? Yeah, absolutely. But mind you, that's only the reason Konoha was founded. The other 4 ninja villages were founded as a response to Konoha being founded, not as a way to get kids out of combat. But moving on to our number 14 hot take, Might Guy shouldn't have survived. I agree with this. He shouldn't have. He serves no utility in Boruto as a story. I get that we want to show off Naruto's ninja Jesus abilities, but Might Guy should have died. It kind of dishonors his sacrifice of using the 8th gate in the first place. And since we're talking about Might Guy, we might as well talk about his husband, Kakashi. Because coming up at number 13, we have Kakashi was a bad teacher. And yeah, I've talked about this multiple times. Kakashi is a horrifically bad teacher. The only thing that Kakashi ever teaches Team 7 as a unit is how to run up a tree, some basic team building strategy with the bell test, and how to walk on water. After Kakashi taught those 3 things to Team 7, he split off with Sasuke and never talked to Sakura or Naruto again. Well, that's not necessarily true. He did help Naruto with the creation of the Rasengan and adding wind release to it. Basically told Sakura to get stuffed. So yeah, Kakashi is an awful teacher. But enough with agreeing with these hot takes. Because at number 12, we have an absolutely asinine hot take, which is that Madara is too OP. This take is substantiated by saying Madara, while entertaining, was also a shitty antagonist who got to pull the "oh, I've got more power" card way too often. Between curb stomping the 5 Kage, being able to summon a Susanoo without eyes, and being able to take the 9-tailed beast while only losing an arm, this dude is the epitome of a villain Sue. And I couldn't agree with this take less. What do you mean Madara is too OP? Madara was the villain that was built up for the entirety of Naruto, the ghost of the Uchiha, the Voldemort of the Naruto universe. This man, when Konoha was founded, decided that the other ninja villages didn't deserve autonomy, pulled up to the hidden stone and beat down the 2 most powerful people there. Then this absolute walking fade gets brought back in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, not only in his prime, but also in a body that infinitely refills his chakra and has an infinite healing factor. The only reason that Madara gets to pull the "I've got more power" cards so often is because he's constantly getting power-ups because of his own hard work over the duration of the 4th Great Shinobi World War. It's because he's forcing Obito to cast Rinne Rebirth. It's because he's getting his Rinnegan back. It's because he's becoming the 10-tailed Jinchuriki. It's not like Sukuna just using binding vow after binding vow after binding vow and breaking the rules of the power system as we understand to stay alive. Madara is making active, hard moves throughout the duration of the 4th Great Shinobi World War to get more power. So no, he's not a villain Sue. He's just the final villain of this story. And therefore he should be OP. What an asinine take. But since we're talking about Uchihas, we might as well shift this conversation back to Sasuke, because at number 11, we have Sasuke's actions were valid. And here's my thing. I disagree, but it's a good hot take. This take is substantiated with the sentence, Sasuke's trauma is valid, and everything he did makes sense and is consistent with the information he had at the time. And that's not Wrong. Do I think that Sasuke should have stayed in Konoha and used the assets he had there to get more power? Yeah. But do I understand that people could believe that Sasuke, after what he went through as a child, is valid in his desire to spend his entire life trying to hunt down Itachi until he realized that Itachi wasn't a bad guy and therefore shift his attention to destroying Konoha? Absolutely. So I'm not going to debunk this hot take because I understand how people could have it. I'm also not going to be debunking our number 10 spot, because at our number 10 spot we have Naruto was too obsessed with Sasuke. Because yeah, Naruto was too obsessed with Sasuke. Not only did Naruto force his friendship on Sasuke, Naruto held on to that friendship for way longer than he should have. Well, yes, the anime doesn't do as good a job highlighting Naruto and Sasuke's relationship in the beginning of Naruto as the manga does, and therefore a lot of anime only people don't understand how good of friends Naruto and Sasuke were in part 1. At a certain point, Naruto's obsession with Sasuke feels as though it's coming more from plot relevance than Naruto's actual desire. Like, Naruto needs to remain obsessed with Sasuke regardless of what Sasuke does so that the plot can continue moving forward. Now, as for the number 9 spot on this list, I'm not entirely sure how to feel, because at number 9 we have Orochimaru should have stayed evil. And while I could find myself maybe agreeing with that hot take, the description used to substantiate it kind of throws me off, because below this hot take it says Orochimaru should have stayed evil. Ninjas are weirdly way too forgiving. I mean, the man killed hundreds, maybe thousands in human experimentation or death matches for plot. And like, to me, that shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what's currently going on with Orochimaru. See, because like, here's the thing. Orochimaru at their core has never fundamentally been evil, at least according to them. Like, if you asked Orochimaru if they were evil or not, they would probably say no, they're just a scientist. And honestly, that's 100% accurate. I'm not saying that what Orochimaru did was ethical, it was far from ethical, but Orochimaru's key motivation throughout the entirety of Naruto has simply been discovering all jutsu. Now, Orochimaru identified that the best way to discover all jutsu was unfortunately a lot of human death, and therefore that did technically make them evil, but this way of life led them to a situation where their third possible perfect vessel stabbed through their door with a lightning spear Chidori that eventually ended up killing them, and also led to their soul being sealed in the realm of drunken dreams by their first possible perfect vessel, just to eventually be brought back to life by their third perfect vessel. And here's the thing, Orochimaru didn't willingly help out during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War. Orochimaru understood in the moment they were brought back by Sasuke that Sasuke was more powerful than them, and therefore Sasuke was forcing Orochimaru to use Edo Tensei to bring the 4 Hokage back to life. On top of this, if the Eye of the Moon plan was enacted, Orochimaru would have died alongside everybody else, so Orochimaru had a vested interest in helping the Shinobi Alliance. After the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Orochimaru was effectively imprisoned. Imprisoned in their laboratory, yes, but still imprisoned. They can't leave. This is the kind of thing that happens all of the time. Orochimaru is one of the greatest minds in history. Why wouldn't Konoha capitalize on their scientific knowledge? It gave them Mitsuki and probably a whole lot more. So that's the thing. Konoha hasn't necessarily forgiven Orochimaru. They're imprisoned. They're not being stabbed once an hour by a katana, but they're still in prison. But speaking of people who probably should have been imprisoned, coming up at number 8, we have Kabuto shouldn't have been redeemed. And I agree with this. Kabuto shouldn't have been redeemed. Yes, absolutely. He spent the entirety of his life looking for an identity and was manipulated by multiple, very powerful, very evil adults. That being said, he also led to the death of like 20,000 people by bringing Madara back to life. So no, do I believe Kabuto should have been redeemed because he slightly helped in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War after being hit with an Izanami by Itachi? No. I believe we possibly could have put him in a similar situation to Orochimaru where he was imprisoned but still helping Konoha. But nope, he's just leading the orphanage in Konoha, which is helping Konoha, admittedly, but he's like not being watched by Jonin and he can go wherever he wants. So I agree with this take. But I agree with this take much more wholeheartedly than I agree with the number 7 take, which is simply that Kaguya's involvement in Naruto as a story was a mistake. See, Kaguya gets a ton of hate in the Naruto fandom, and I believe some of that is warranted, but that's not Kaguya's fault. See, the reason that Kaguya gets hate isn't because Kaguya is an uncompelling, poorly written character, because she's neither of those things. In fact, I do believe that Kaguya's involvement in Naruto as a whole actually makes it a better story. Not only because it led to the creation of Boruto, and I love Boruto, but because she herself is a really cool character that explains how ninjas were created in the first place. Like, from a lore perspective, Kaguya is one of the most important characters in all of Naruto. She introduces the concept of Hagoromo and Hamura, the creation of Ninshu, Ninjutsu, chakra. We would have absolutely no understanding of why the Naruto world is like how it is without Kaguya. Yet people are saying that Kaguya should not have been introduced at all. She added nothing to the ending of the story, and she felt like a cheap way to get rid of Madara instead of Naruto and Sasuke dealing with him as a final boss before the fated final fight. The alien thing as a whole felt very random, with Naruto being the reincarnation of Asura. It took away from his character being made the self-made underdog. But Naruto being the reincarnation of Asura has nothing to do with Kaguya. You can be upset about Naruto being the reincarnation of Asura and that taking away from his self-made storyline. But if you think Naruto being the reincarnation of Asura is the only thing taking away from his self-made storyline, you're not reading close enough. Do I disagree with how Kaguya was introduced? Yes, absolutely. If anybody should have killed Madara, it should have been either Might Guy or Naruto and Sasuke. And then Black Zetsu could have grabbed onto Madara's corpse and turned that into Kaguya. It would have been that easy. But that doesn't mean that Kaguya never should have been involved. That's just wrong. But fortunately, or unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure at this point, the number 6 hot take is not wrong, and that is that the real plot of Naruto was retrieving Sasuke, not becoming Hokage or stopping the aliens. I don't really know if this is a hot take or just like the objective truth, because like, what is the plot of any story? It's not like it's laid out for us. Like, the plot is whatever we as the readers and watchers deem the plot is. So yeah, sure. I'm gonna keep agreeing with hot takes here. I don't even know if this hot take should be identified as a hot take, because coming up at number 5, we have Talk no Jutsu is useful. Is there people out there who say that Talk no Jutsu isn't useful? Redditor goes on to say, Talk no Jutsu is a really great power. If you don't believe it, try to change someone's behavior with just words. It's the hardest thing ever. Feels even harder now than ever. And like, yeah, well, Talk no Jutsu is one of the most memed on things in Naruto. It is kind of impressive that Naruto was able to turn around the lives of multiple people with just a conversation. And well, yeah, he has plot on his side, which most humans don't have. I don't think anybody out there is going to tell you that Talk no Jutsu isn't useful. And maybe it's because we're getting to the top of this list and these are the most up-liked hot takes, but once again, I'm gonna have to agree with number 4, which is that Gentle Fist is OP. And like, yeah, Gentle Fist is insanely OP, if not underrepresented in the story. Which is crazy when you consider the fact that the Hyuga are one of the biggest clans in Naruto. An ability that allows you to shut down the chakra circulatory system of somebody else when the entirety of being powerful in the Naruto universe revolves around circulating chakra is crazy. Especially when you consider the fact that if you halt somebody's chakra circulatory system enough, it should just kill them. And we really never see it used again in any true meaningful capacity outside of the Chunin exams. And like, maybe the Sasuke retrieval arc. And yeah, it's because pretty much any relevant Hyuga disappears from the story after that arc. But still, considering it's a technique that could shut down somebody's ability to use ninjutsu, we probably should have seen it more often. But that's where the agreements stop, because I both agree and kind of disagree with the number 3 hot take, which is that Naruto's wind release potential wasn't fully explored. Now, the reason that I agree and disagree with this hot take lies in the description, which states Kakashi and Jiraiya were incredible shinobi, but failed to teach Naruto other jutsu to fight with, especially after they learned he is a wind type. They don't train him how to use any wind-based jutsus. If Naruto had a mastery of the Shadow Clone Jutsu combined with an even beginner wind jutsu, he would have finished a lot of fights sooner. And like, so far as hot takes go, this one's fine, but once again, it kind of lies in an area of misunderstanding. One, after Kakashi learns that Naruto is a wind-style chakra user, Kakashi does train him on how to start using wind release. They start cutting waterfalls in half, so that Naruto can apply shape transformation and a nature transformation to his Rasengan to make it throwable. And yes, could Naruto learn something like Breakthrough or Wind Scythe? Absolutely, but Naruto's Rasen Shuriken is the most powerful wind-based ninjutsu we've ever seen. And Naruto was the first ever person to apply an elemental chakra release to a Rasengan. On top of this, by the time that Shippuden rolls around, Naruto does know a bunch of other jutsu that aren't the Rasengan. He just chooses not to use them. And if I had an ability that allowed me to cut entire god trees in half, I probably would only use that one too. So yeah, would it have been kind of cool to see Naruto explore different kinds of wind jutsus outside of his Rasengan? Probably. But does that mean he's not living up to his wind release potential? God, no. But to close out this video, I am gonna have to agree with the last 2 hot takes, which are that Shikamaru is Naruto's real best friend. Yeah, Shikamaru is there for Naruto for the entirety of the time that Sasuke is running around being a terrorist. And when you consider the filler arc that showed us that Naruto and Shikamaru were best friends before they had their memories erased, it kind of solidifies the fact that, yeah, Shikamaru was always Naruto's best friend. And it's corroborated by the fact that Shikamaru becomes Naruto's aide after Naruto becomes the Hokage. Ironically, Sasuke runs around and does missions outside of Konoha. And then last but not least, the number 1 hot take in the Naruto community is that the female characters were underutilized. This is not a hot take. This is the most deli meat cold take I've ever heard in my entire life. There are only 2 female characters in the entirety of Naruto who even sniffed at being used at their fullest potential, and that's Tsunade and Sakura, who are the same character. Ino is currently being better utilized than Boruto, but even she's probably being underutilized considering the fact she might be the best sensor type ninja we've ever seen. Both Hinata and Temari, 2 of the most powerful kunoichis we've ever seen in Naruto, were turned into housewives, and Sakura, who was undoubtedly the most powerful person in Konoha when Naruto disappeared, just kept running the hospital, you know, instead of becoming the 8th Hokage as she probably should have. So yeah, female characters are underutilized in the Naruto universe. We've known this. That's hardly a hot take, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Out of all of these hot takes, which do you agree with and which do you disagree with? Tell me in the comments below, and while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'm getting sick. I'm gonna go lie down now.